In the past 2 days, when I'm recording this, Amazon has turned on, aka opted you in, to their Amazon Sidewalk functionality, which is in basically all Echo and Ring devices, which turns them into bridges that share some of your internet connection publicly. What the heck are we talking about? Is this good? Is this bad? And if you don't want to be bothered with it, how do you turn it off? Hang on, we're going to cover all of this in the next few minutes, so hang in there, let's get started. Oh, puppy. Good puppy dog. Puppy, puppy, puppy. Okay, so here we go. It's never a dull moment when it comes to technology, and here's the latest. Amazon has opted all of us in to this little thing called Amazon Sidewalk, which is functionality that they've been building into their devices for quite some time now and just letting it sit dormant. And the idea is that it's going to turn these devices into what they're calling bridges, because, can't have enough terminology to throw around here, that's going to share some of your internet connection publicly. So what does this mean, right? Is this good? Is this bad? If you don't want to deal with it, how do you turn it off? We're going to cover all these things. But first, let's just get into a little bit of the background so that you understand what it is that we're talking about, because there's a lot of activity out there about all this, and they don't really explain everything. So let's just make sure that we're all starting from the same place. Okay, so Amazon Sidewalk is just new functionality, software that they have built into all these devices. And the way that they're presenting this, okay, I'm just going to read what they're saying here and try to keep as much of my opinion out of it as possible. We know we'll fail there. They're calling it a shared network, right? And their goal is to help devices work better for all of us, right? So this is operated by Amazon, okay, at no charge to the customers. Okay, and the idea is that Sidewalk is going to help to simplify setup. It's going to extend low bandwidth range for devices. And it's going to help people, for example, if they lose their pets or their valuables, and they're using tile trackers. Or it'll help your devices stay online if they are outside or they have a weak Wi-Fi signal in your home. And they're even going to make it available for some health benefits, some health technology that's out there. And in the future, of course, they have other plans for this. So what exactly are we talking about? What is going to be able to be a bridge, right? So Amazon Sidewalk is the general functionality, right? And bridges are basically our devices that now become these devices, I want to say Wi-Fi, it's not Wi-Fi, these Bluetooth-enabled way of connecting and spreading internet connection. It's a little murky. Okay, but let's talk about what devices we're talking, right? Okay, and this is the list as of when I'm recording this in the second week of June? God, time's flying. Okay, so it's Echo devices and Ring devices in general, but let's be specific. Ring Floodlight Cam 2019, Ring Spotlight Cam Wired 2019, Ring Spotlight Cam Mount 2019, Echo 3rd Gen and newer, Echo Dot 3rd Gen and newer, Echo Dot for kids 3rd Gen and newer. People are flipping out over that one. Echo Dot with the clock 3rd Gen and newer, Echo Plus all generations, Echo Show 2nd Gen and later, Echo Show 5, 8, and 10 inch, Echo Spot, Echo Studio, Echo Input, Echo Flex. Okay, and so basically what this is doing is it's using Bluetooth, like in the 900 megahertz spectrums, thereabouts, to extend coverage and provide all of these benefits, right? So that's pretty much the company line. That's the information that they're putting out there. By the way, in the description, I have provided all the links to the full details on where I got this information from, information about Sidewalk in general from Amazon, and also a white paper that they published. Okay, so every time they publish it, you know what that's. But the white paper that they published, if you want to get into more details about it. And by the way, I forgot to introduce myself. So for those of you who are new here and wondering who I am and why I'm talking about this stuff, my name is Kathleen. I'm here as your tech coach. Basically, my day gig is technology. It's also my hobby. So I live this stuff, so you don't have to. So basically, all of my friends, family, neighbors come to me when they have questions, when they need help buying things. And I realize not everybody has somebody like that. So I started doing the show. I always bring a topic. You are always welcome to come and ask other questions, either on or off topic. Don't be shy. We're not shy around here. Okay, so what the heck is the brouhaha all about, right? Why is everybody flipping out over this? In my humble opinion, it's not unjustified that people are reacting strongly to this for a couple of reasons. One of which is they have been terrible about explaining all of this and preparing people for it. They're just awful. They completely dropped the ball on this. And frankly, even though it's already been activated, they're still not doing a good job of explaining it. So that's on them. If you want people to buy into what you're giving them with technology, you've got to explain it to them, and you've got to make it something that they are going to understand, which is not saying that anybody's stupid. It just means that this stuff is complicated, and there's a lot of nuances to it, and it's not marketing hype we need. We need actual information, and we're not getting that yet. The other thing, and this is the thing that really lit the fire for me, is the fact that they just opted everybody in. That's never the way to do this stuff, ever. It should always be our choice what happens with our devices, right? We purchase them. We should make the choice. Now, they're positioning this as they just want to make it easy for everybody, and it's such a valuable asset, and it's going to be so helpful. Yeah, that smells like marketing hype. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It should always be our choice, because they're counting on the fact that most people are not going to make the effort to go in and turn this off, and that, to me, is just wrong. Across the board, not okay. So those are the two biggies. Now we're going to do a little counterpoint in this section here, because there's angles and nuances to this, as I said, right? So actually, let me just check in here and see. So, okay, so Sammy mentioned that he didn't even know about Amazon Sidewalk, and Sammy is pretty techie, right? He stays in touch with all this stuff. You haven't used it in a long time, but you have one, right? So that's the other part of this, right? Is that there's a lot of people in that boat, right? They bought it, maybe they used it, for a while, actively, and now it's just kind of sitting around, and maybe occasionally they ask it for the weather or whatever. But it's not something that necessarily they're actively using, but it could still be plugged in and being used, which means you are still, participating in this thing. So let's talk about the potential positives of Sidewalk, right? So I kind of mentioned it at the beginning. The idea is that, because it is based on Bluetooth, it's a way to spread the connection, right? Your internet connection outside of Wi-Fi. Now, okay, I do technology, right? From a technical standpoint, this is a little fuzzy for me, because they're saying, so if, your security camera loses Wi-Fi, which I'm assuming means loses the Wi-Fi signal, like maybe you're a little outside the range, not that your internet connection is no longer providing Wi-Fi, because if your internet connection is no longer providing Wi-Fi, then whether you've got Bluetooth or Wi-Fi doesn't matter, because there's no connection to be made. So again, they're not explaining that well. But the idea is that if the actual device, for whatever reason, sorry. Yes, I'm very animated about this. If the device itself is not able to connect to Wi-Fi for whatever reason, it may be able to connect into this Bluetooth connection and continue to provide you service, okay? All right, that could be a benefit. I certainly know that before I installed my Google Mesh network, I had some problems with some devices that were sort of on the fringe of being connected, but Google Mesh solved that problem. I'm sorry, puppy, what are you doing? Hey, thank you. Okay, so that's one potential thing, okay? The other thing, and this is the one they're leaning really hard on in all the stuff I've read about this, is that they're adding this, like, Bluetooth capability, this Sidewalk compatible functionality into other devices. So things like the smart tracker tile, right? So if you lose your computer, if you can actually get one that goes on the dog's collar. So it'll help you find your lost items. It'll help you find your lost pets. Which, okay, who doesn't want to find their lost stuff, and who doesn't want to help, lost pets, right? So they're really tugging at the heartstrings there, and then they keep going, right? Because another thing is, well, they've partnered with a company that does wearable sensors for people with dementia, or, kids that have a tendency to wander, that type of thing, and so this will help with that type of tracking and finding these people who might need help. Again, any person with a heart is going to be responsive to that. Like, well, okay, yes, I understand that. That would be a good thing. I could see the benefit to that. Okay? And it's not wrong. It's not wrong, because while these devices exist today, they do kind of rely on your phone in general or other local connections in order for it to work. So if somebody has not passed by wherever you lost your computer, that has an open signal so that the tile can communicate and say, here I am, then it's just still sitting wherever you left it. So again, not completely wrong, right? And then the idea is that, this is going to create a robust type network for these types of things, right? And so your Echo speaker or your Ring doorbell or whatever it is, since those are already connected to your internet connection, they're turning those devices into what they call the bridges. So each bridge then becomes a way for these other devices to stay connected or communicate back, that, hey, I'm here, come find me, kind of thing. Which is okay. And it's not using your Wi-Fi, right? It's a Bluetooth connection, but it's still using your internet connection. So that's also another area where they're being kind of fuzzy. That needs to be explained a little bit better. And the other thing is that, when people hear Bluetooth, and generally they're thinking, okay, that's generally a short range, which is true. But everything I'm reading about this says that the version of Bluetooth that they're using can connect to devices up to half a mile away. That's a lot more. I mean, if you've ever worn, Bluetooth headset, right, and you've walked too far from your computer or your phone, you know how quickly you can lose that connection. So if whatever they're using can actually go to half a mile, that's pretty extensive, especially for Bluetooth. So that for me also changes the game, right? It's the difference between, okay, somebody's a couple of feet away or somebody's up to half a mile away using my connection. That may change my opinion, and I'm, just putting it out there. I'm not telling you one way or the other. These are just things to think about. The other side of all of this, is that, they're telling us that it, while it doesn't carry as much Wi-Fi, it's still impressive. It's still going to carry the signal, and extend the mesh network. But really, okay, why is Amazon doing this? Yes, of course they're concerned. Yes, they're trying to help us. Yes, they want to be good corporate neighbors, all that kind of stuff. But really, why are they doing that, right? Because they're not doing this. It's not an altruistic thing, right? They're not doing it from the goodness of their cold corporate heart, right? They're building a vast wireless network controlled completely by Amazon and paid for by us. And that's the other cute little thing here, right? Because they're talking about, save the pets, save the person who needs help, all admirable things. And Amazon is doing this, and Amazon is controlling this, and Amazon is providing it, but we're paying for it, right? It's coming out of our internet, right? And so if you have a capped internet, that may be a problem, because this is going to be siphoning off. Now, it's not a fire hose, okay? It is authorized to use a portion. It's authorized by Amazon, not by you. It's authorized, unless you decide to leave it on. It's authorized by Amazon to use a portion of your internet bandwidth up to 500 megabytes per month. So that's half a gig. And of course, that number could be changed, right? That's a software setting, so some way that will change, okay? And their explanation of, it was roughly the equivalent of 150 cell phone photos, okay? And supposedly they're capping it at 80 kilobytes per second, which is a fraction of what's used for high definition video. That's an interesting measuring stick for them to use, right? Because video is way at the top of use of bandwidth, right? They didn't say that it's equivalent to sending text messages, which is very low. So it's less than video is telling me that it's still pretty darn high. So that's not so cool in my book. And because, it's counting towards your internet provider, your internet data cap if you have one, the bill is being paid for you regardless, okay? But if you have a cap and you are going to hit it, this could push you over that limit, which means then you're going to get extra charges from your internet provider, which nobody wants. And again, this is buried information. It's in there. If you really go in and read everything about Sidewalk, it's in there, but it's not exactly upfront and clearly stated, which makes me a little angry. Okay, makes me a lot angry. But okay. Now, right away, there's the whole thing about, security, and can people, hack into my network, and can Amazon see everything that's going on my network, and all that kind of stuff. And of course, their thing is, no, it's secure. We've taken steps and all that. And I'm sure that they have. I am not in any way, shape, or form saying that they're, opening up this big hole for everybody to get through. That said, nothing is bulletproof. So, there is, to me, some level of security risk, even if it is low. So it is, again, something else to consider. But as far as the whole tracking thing, and they're watching me and all that kind of stuff, well, folks, and I put this in a bad place for me to get to it, but we're all walking around with devices that are doing way more tracking than anything else. Your phone knows everywhere you've been, who you've talked to, what you're up to. So, when people start to freak out about that, I do kind of giggle a little bit, because everybody's walking around with these, and that doesn't seem to be bothering anybody. So do try to temper your, oh my God, they're watching me thing with, the reality of the fact that, A, you've brought these devices into your home knowing that they are voice activated and listening to you and tracking you, but so is your flippin' phone. So, okay, let's, your cars, anybody who's bought a more recent car, so your, around here they call it Easy Pass, but whatever you're using, so you don't have to take money out of your pocket to pay your tolls, that's tracking you. So we're being tracked, folks. You just need to make decisions about which ones you are okay with and which ones you are not, but do not delude yourself into thinking that you're not being tracked by something somewhere. Okay? There we go. So Callie's on board with me on that. It's there, it's all around us, so it's just a matter of weighing, the pros and the cons, and what you want to participate and what you don't. I just really want them to be more honest about, what it is, and provide more information. So, okay, that aside, Amazon, most of the things I order that I need, I order through Amazon, so they've got a pretty good picture of what I'm up to anyway. All right. So if you are thinking about opting out of it, instead of it being a knee-jerk reaction, let's talk about some reasons why you might want to do it, or some things to think about as you're trying to decide whether or not you want to opt out. And then I'm going to explain how to opt out, because some of the information out there is not right. Okay, so first of all, as I was just talking about, okay, if you're on any kind of metered, limited internet plan, you might seriously want to, consider not being a part of this, because you may not have the internet bandwidth to spare, right? You may be already fighting to do what you need to do with your internet connection, and you don't need anything else tapping into it. Up to 500, meg, half a gig may not be a lot for somebody like me who's on Fios and has a, basic fire hose. But that's not the case for everybody. And so don't feel guilty. If you're like, well, I'd like to do this, but, and one of the buts is you don't have a whole lot of internet speed coming in and out, then by all means, you're paying for your internet to achieve your goals and needs. So if this is going to cut into that or push your bill higher, then that's certainly a good reason to turn this puppy off. Sorry, not you. Or, if you're a techie control freak, right? There's nothing wrong with that. If looking at their stuff, you're not happy with the way that they're presenting it, if you're not happy with the idea that you're paying for it, and you don't want to be stuck with it, if you're concerned, I've had some conversations with some of my geeky friends about, well, then if somebody's doing something and they tap into it and what they're doing is illegal, I don't want to run into that problem, because it's tied to my IP address, which is valid. How often that's going to happen is another matter. Just because something is technically possible doesn't mean it's going to happen a lot. But still, if it's going to freak you out, if you're a control freak and you've got everything locked down, then yeah, you're going to want to turn this off too. Maybe you want to hold out for more, okay? Which I think is probably going to happen at some point. So the big thing about this, and the thing that everybody's consistently complaining about is the opting in, which is wrong. We should we have to opt out. They should not be opting in for us. But also the fact that it's coming out of our pockets, right? They're benefiting from it, right? It's big PR. It's selling more of their devices. It's technology that they're going to use in their devices, but it's coming out of our pocket twice, right? Because we're buying the devices and we're providing the internet connection. So, yeah, maybe you want to hold out and wait to see, because maybe in a couple of months when enough people have turned this off and are showing no interest in it, they'll start throwing a little something our way, at least for the short term. We know that those kinds of enticements don't last, but it is something that maybe will come, and so maybe you want to hold off, turn it off for now and hope that maybe they'll offer you something later. I don't know what that'll be, but we'll see. Hopefully it'll be something decent. Don't, if you're going to go this route, don't give it away for like one free movie. Get something really good for it. Maybe you just hate Amazon and you don't want to give them any more power and you're done with it and blah, blah, blah. That's a perfectly valid reason to do it too, right? If, you don't want any of this and, maybe you are or aren't using their devices, but between, the devices, what you order from them, all the other stuff, you think that they've got more than enough information on you and you're not cool with this, then, if you don't trust them or you don't feel comfortable with this, you are completely within your rights to turn this thing off. So just go right ahead. The other thing that I have not seen mentioned too much is if you are a live streamer, right, or a gamer, you are probably going to want to either turn this off completely or turn this off before you start to stream or game, because it is going to be something else in your bandwidth. So those of us who do live streaming, people who are serious about their gaming, generally go around, they kick everybody in their house off the internet, right? They turn off everything other than the devices they absolutely need to be connected to do their streaming and or gaming. Because when you're in those kinds of areas, every little bit counts. So you don't want to have anything else siphoning off, and this is a perfect example. Now, you could do this either way. You could turn this off completely because you are a streamer or a gamer and you don't want to be having to think about it. Or if you decide you're going to leave it on, it's going to be one more thing to add to your checklist to make sure that you've turned off before you start to do your thing, and then turn it back on later. So there's that. So yes, so Kelly's like, you should probably do that, but right? Well, that's, we've talked about my checklist, right? I have checklists that I use before every single stream. And part of that is I turn off all the Wi-Fi devices, all the smart devices, unless I'm using it for a demo, any extra phones I have laying around, like I turn everything off, and I have a huge bandwidth, but I don't want to risk anything interfering with my live stream. And let's face it, there's enough wild cards out there, so I try to improve the odds in my favor by turning off all of these things and then, turning them back on. And I have that out of all the things, like most of the stuff I can do with pretty much, one voice command or one click. That is a little bit more manual right now, but, it's another way to go. And if you are sort of on that borderline of being able to, game successfully or stream successfully, that can make the difference. That turning that kind of stuff off is definitely the kind of thing that would make a difference. So it's definitely worth thinking about. So I have no idea at this point if you're going to keep it on or off, but I'm going to explain how to turn it off, because, again, there was some strange information out there. Okay, so John says, yep, I see a lot of gamers and streamers wondering what's eating your bandwidth, right? Exactly. And that's, that's a big deal because it does have a direct impact. So you do want to factor that in when you're making this decision. And like I said, you're not a bad person if you turn it off. It's okay. There is certainly some benefit to it. When you get into the parts of the document, again, all those links are in the description, but when they get into the part of the document about, why you should leave it on, they do take the spin of, how it's going to help you, and it's going to make it easier to set up devices in the future, and it's going to be easier to keep things on, line and all that, which is not wrong. So again, there is benefit to you, but does that benefit, weighed out against the internet that you're paying for that they're using, and so on and so forth. So there are some things to think about. Most people I know are turning it off, and I'm helping them do that because it is not okay, and this is what I keep coming back to, it is not okay that Amazon turned it on for everybody without everybody getting the choice of whether or not they wanted to participate. So that's the way it's going. No problem, Callie. Thank you. We'll see you. I'm going to try to catch you later. So let's talk about how to actually do this. So there are people out there right now, and they're trying to help. This is not a bad thing that they're doing, but there are people that are saying that you have to do it by device, and that's not completely true. So it's like if you have 3 Echoes and 2 Dots and the Ring doorbell, you don't have to do it for each one. What you do have to do is do it for the Ring and do it for the Echo devices, the Alexa devices. There's a little bit of confusion, and I haven't been able, that's why I read you that list early on, because technically the Fire TVs and the Fire Sticks are Alexa devices, but they're not on the list right now, so I'm not sure whether or not those are included or not, but it doesn't really matter, because what you do is you go into the Amazon app, or you go in or you go into your Ring app, and you have to turn it off in there. So I don't have any Ring devices, but I'm going to show you the screens that you need to go through for the Alexa, the Echo devices, and then you can, it's basically the same from everybody I've heard for the Ring devices. All right, now let's see, do I get this right the first try? Yes, yay! So this is how you're going to turn it off. So you're going to go into the app, either the Ring app and or the Alexa app. Okay, and then you're going to go down here, okay, to where it says more, which is right now in the bottom right. That will change over time, but you know, as of when I'm recording that, this is where it is. Okay, and then you're going to come in here. Oh, would help if I actually hit the button before I coughed. Okay. And then you're going to want to go in and you're going to look for settings. Okay, so that's the one that's got the little gear next to it. So you're going to click on that. All right, and then on here, you're going to go into account settings, which is generally up here near the top. Okay, and then you're going to get to this list here, and what you're looking for is the Amazon Sidewalk option. At least one, I mean, it's several layers down, which I think they could have done better. But at least, you know, once it's here, you don't have to guess which one it is. It's clearly identified as Sidewalk. Okay, and then they're going to give you the spiel about why you should keep it connected, and you can click, you know, this link, which will open up, you know, and give you more information. But all you have to do is turn off this switch. So this is what it looks like in the disabled state. And this is basically the same process that you follow for Ring. So if you've got a Ring device, you go to the Ring app on phone or mobile device or whatever. In this case, you're going to tap on the 3 bars at the top left corner of your menu. Then you're going to go into Control Center, and then you're going to scroll down to Amazon Sidewalk. So those are the steps you're going to take. And then you're just going to go in and turn it off. And then if you do decide you want to put it back on, if you decide you want to opt in later, you can come in and change your mind. But this is how you're going to go in and do that. One more thing that I want to keep in mind just before we wrap this up is that there's no halfway with this, right? Either your devices are on it or off of it, right? So what that means is, yes, if you turn it off, that means nobody else is using your connection, okay, which is for most people the goal. But that also means that your devices are not going to benefit from Sidewalk. And I don't know why I did that, because there may actually be benefits for Sidewalk on these devices, but until they give us some more information and some actual proof, and maybe don't make it so that it's costing us money, this is maybe something that you don't want to be a part of right this second. You'll have plenty of opportunities to go ahead and do it later. It'll be interesting to see. I would love to hear, if you don't mind putting in the comments, if you're watching this live or after. I'm curious how many people are actually thinking about leaving it on, who are aware of this and know that they can turn it off, because so far I have not run into anybody in my world who's keeping it on. Everybody's like, what? Nope. So I've done a lot of walking people through this to get it done. So I'm kind of curious. I want to hear from somebody why they would keep it on at this point right now, because yeah. All right, so I think we are good here. As always, if you have any questions, comments, if you need more information about it, you can always reach out to me. Just go to yourtechcoach.net. There's a contact form there. Let me know what your question or problem is, and I will be happy to get back to you. Just remember to tell me how to get back in touch with you. Give me an email address or whatever so that I can reach back in touch with you. Or if you just have ideas for future content, something you want me to explain on here, I'm very happy to do that. If you would like to stay on top of what's going on, you can come and join the mailing list. That's yourtechcoach.net/mailing list. I don't sell it to anybody. It's just a way for me to communicate with you when I'm not here hanging out. All right, so I hope that this has at least given you the information that you need, A, to know that this exists, but B, so that you can decide whether or not you're going to leave this on or not. And then we will... So John has already voted in. John has voted to say that he's turning it off after the show. There you go. And maybe go help your mom do it too. Yes, I've turned it off as soon as I heard about it. But okay, so one other thing that I've been hearing from people happening is that it's magically turning itself back on for some people. Now, supposedly they fixed that, but if you turned it off, you might want to just verify that it's still turned off. I'm just saying. It was a glitch. Yeah, I don't know why I'm doing this so much tonight. But yes, so feel free if you have any questions, problems, if you want more information. You can go ahead and throw those in the comments. I always come back and check, so don't hesitate to do that. Also, like I said, all the links for the information and the details are in the description, so you can go and check those out. And I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you found it, I hope I helped to clarify a little bit of what's going on here. And we'll see. I'm going to be keeping an eye on this. I'm going to keep an eye to see, what the rates are for people staying opted in. I want to keep an eye on what they're actually going to do with this. So I'm sure we're going to talk about this some more, but as of this point in time, since they have just turned it on for everybody, I wanted to make sure you had the information you needed. Okay? All right, everybody. I am here every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So is Murphy. It's on Facebook and YouTube, and also right now I'm still test driving Twitter. I haven't quite made the decision about that. So I hope that you will come and join us live if you can, but if not, don't hesitate. You can always watch the replays. And like I said, any questions, comments, you can always throw them into the comments and I will check them. Have a good one, everybody. Go turn them off if you're going to turn it off. We'll talk again soon. Bye.